Bloggers are the worst. We type away our bad conscience and link to some questioning articles instead of going out and doing something. Somebody else said, I can't make up my mind whether this is also ridiculous or instead the beginning of fascism. And then something that I also rather liked was, there have always been reports about police investigations, but before they were done on paper by cheap print shops and normal people didn't read them because they had too many difficult words. But now this is different. Another longer quotation that I also liked is this. But the two of them have nothing to hide, do they? In that case, a little surveillance along the lines of the laws won't hurt. It can't happen to you? You don't see any bad guys and you always take your mobile along? Do you know what I'm doing later? And whether I sometimes don't take my mobile? These are the forms of abuse everybody is warning about. I didn't think they would be shown in such a bold way. Some other people wondered whether the police is going to start blogging about their point of view and their side of things. As far as I know, they didn't, or in a very conspiratorial way. I didn't notice, but if you find out, please tell me. And there was a lot of support, which felt very good, because if you are subjected to this type of thing, I think it's hard to not go schizophrenic, feeling this happening to you and at the same time thinking this is impossible, this can't be true, this can't be real, this is so ridiculous in one way and so amateurist in a way, so badly done. It's amazing to understand that one of the biggest industrial countries in the world living with the threat of terrorism, and then this is the way how they want to deal with terrorism, and being subjected to that and living with that makes you, I think, or let's put it differently, I think if I didn't have children, I probably would have gone crazy. I imagine that if people, and there are so many people living with this kind of thing, and I think you can't react in any other way than going extremely depressed or really going crazy, because it's hard to understand that this is actually real, that this is serious, that this is the way police are doing this type of thing. And I think my children forced me to just function and to just go on and make breakfast in the morning and to pick them up from kindergarten and just play funny games and do normal things. And I'm very grateful that this was the way I had to live my life then at that moment. And yeah, and there was so much support, and I wish that other people who live in the same kind of situation took the chance to also go out and get this kind of support by talking about what it feels like to live this kind of life. What I'd like to say in the end, and I really need to finish, is that other people have asked me whether I think our behavior has changed with the surveillance, and I have asked myself whether I think my behavior has changed with surveillance. And in a way, I think for the most things I'd say no. But then again, I think it's not true, because what happens is that you constantly think about it, you constantly control yourself in the things that you do and how you do them. For example, I'm extremely curious. Like when I am in the street and somebody goes by, or I have to stop for some reason, lock my bike or something, and something moves, and I just, without thinking about it, turn my head. And now every time I stand and lock my bike, I don't turn my head. Or talking on the phone, specifically after these stories like the black bag, when you get the reaction straight away and you get it black on white, what the reaction is and what the police think of the things that you say, you start phrasing things differently. You try to be as clear as possible. You don't just say, come on, let's meet in the same bar. You say, if somebody calls you and says this very same sentence, you mean we want to meet in that and that bar at that and that time to discuss blah, blah, blah. or you really try to not make any jokes because that is quite evident that police are like irony. And they really don't understand irony, really, because these things are written down apparently, and you cannot transmit the tone, and then that would be the nicest interpretation of what's happening. They don't get when you joke, so you just don't joke. You are very serious, you are very matter-of-factly, you describe exactly what you want to say, because in the back of your mind, you always read how they would write it down. And that is still happening with me whenever I'm on the phone. I think about what they would be thinking and how they will comment what I'm saying at the moment, so I try to phrase it in a way that it is not ambiguous. Also, I remember several times I said something and then in the very same moment I thought, oh my God, no, you can't say it like that. For example, I used the pronoun we several times when I described surveillance measures on the phone, and I said, so this is now, if this and that is happening, they will again think that we are planning attacks. And then I think, oh my God, but I'm not even accused of planning an attack. It's not about me, it's about him, so I shouldn't be they will be thinking we, but I should be saying they will be thinking he. And these little things, like you talk, you think about what you think about anyways, and at the same time you think also how they will think about it. And that is rather straining, and it does of course change the way you behave on the phone. On the other hand, I try to not change too much. For example, I still fight with people on the phone when I'm angry, and I know other people don't do this kind of thing. I did get new curtains for our apartment because the feeling of having a video camera outside that watches everything that you do is rather not very nice to have. In fact, I mean, I don't know whether we have bugs in the place. After now, I have just recently read some articles about some cops dreaming of having cameras inside apartments, and then this is just the legal part of what the federal police can do. Then there's always the secret services who do things that you don't know about, and usually it's more and it's worse than what the police do. So I wouldn't be too surprised understanding that also there's cameras in our place, but I don't know, of course, and that is a very uncomfortable feeling to never be by yourself wherever you are. I finish now because there's only 5 minutes left. And I hope that you have some questions or comments to what I have to say. Just 2 little announcements. Because all of this is about terrorism, and because the High Court also has had to decide what terrorism is, we have published a contest on the question, what is terrorism? And we are still looking for contributions by people. And I would like to ask you all to think about what you think is terrorist and what terrorism is, and you can find all of this on our website. Also the contributions by other people, and we are looking for more contributions, and we have very nice prizes to win. And I'll stop here. Thank you. Thank you. Wow.
Thank you very much. And this is for all.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I can't really see from here. We have only 4 minutes left, but if there's any questions or comments?
I have a very short question. How did you deal with aggression? I mean, especially if your family gets involved and you see to what kind of treatment or what kind of treatment also your children get. I mean, how did you stop yourself from just going berserk at the policeman or at the people who are following you?
Well, there's two easy answers to that. One, it's really not wise to attack policemen. And the other, I'm not generally a very physically aggressive person. That just didn't come to my mind. It didn't really.
Hi, is this micro on? Yeah, right here. What I find interesting is the files. The police, they don't blog, but they have to keep files. How does one get to see these files, and do you happen to know what the police have to keep in their files? What do they have? Do they basically, for example, if your place was bugged, then they would have to write that down, wouldn't they?
Yes and no. The files are the normal files to the proceedings, and of course the defendants have a right to see their files to defend themselves in court, which is how we got to have the files. You are not normally entitled to, anyone is not entitled to have a look at these files. It's not public. And as far as what they have to put in there and what they actually do put in there, we know that there is many more files that we don't have. We only have, I think, something like 35 folders, but it's very obvious that not everything is in there. Also, it's clearly not only the police who are doing the investigation, but also secret services, and they are not obliged to give you what they have. So that is what we don't know. So there are some things in there, and others are not. I'm not an expert enough on legal things to be able to tell what has to be in there and what hasn't. But my impression is that they are actually not very legalistic in their interpretation of what they are actually putting in there.
Yes, what I've learned tonight is basically that we have to, what interests me is to look into what is actually to go in these files, because we, as the people, need a way to monitor the people who monitor us. And this is to be done, I think. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I think this was not a question, so maybe the next comment.
I would like to ask if your relationship to your boyfriend has changed, because I mean, in a relationship you are very close and you are very open, and now when you think that everything what you say could be interpreted by some policeman, do you have the feeling you can't say your boyfriend everything you want to?
That's very difficult to answer, because relationships change anyway, so it's very difficult to answer in a way. I think it hasn't really changed much, because, like I said, I still fight with him on the phone if I have the feeling I have to, because I don't want to let that even be taken away from me. It has changed in a way that the situation that we've been through in the past half year is extremely straining for all of us, and I think no relationship will go unchanged with a situation of pressure like that. But given that pressure, I think we were doing extraordinarily well. And I think we are both trying very hard to stay as normal as possible, because it does move you closer when something like that happens, I think.
Thanks.
Did you ever try to fight back against what police was doing in the illegal time? So if they were looking at files they would not be allowed to look at, or, you know, like just go to court and say what you're doing is not allowed? Did you try doing that on several times?
Yes, of course, the lawyers are taking care of these kinds of things, yes. Like, I didn't grab the files because I still, again, don't think it's wise to start fighting with federal cops who are in your place, but the lawyers are doing that.
Okay, just for the record, who is tracking you right now? Would that person please stand up?
Well, it's easy. They can use internet stream, you see.
Thanks anyway.